This is continuing coverage of United States versus Sean Diddy Combs from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.
Well, you know, when you think things can't get darker, they do with Diddy. It just seems to be his thing. He seems to be kind of the spawn of Satan, to put it lightly. It's, I don't know at this point, because the way that this guy has allegedly dehumanized so many people and gotten away with it is just really, really shocking. There was some really poignant testimony coming in. Capricorn Clark is the woman's name. Broke down emotionally when describing Cassie Ventura being beaten by Combs. She witnessed it and really didn't do anything out of fear. I'm not victim blaming here, saying that, you know,
100%.
But from a behavioral standpoint, Robin Dreeke, by the way, with us. Retired FBI. Just feel like it's like Cheers. We're just already here.
There we are.
Retired FBI Special Agent Chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program. From a behavioral, perspective here, how do you evaluate authentic emotional courage versus performative emotion on the stand? Because I know they're going to go after her and they're going to say, well, you kept coming back. You left and you came back an ungodly amount of times, even though she was being abused. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But, she's up there. She's testifying. She's corroborating Cassie's story. What would you be looking for in her testimony for someone who kept working for Diddy over and over and over, even after a lot of abuse?
It's really complicated because you're gonna see every gamut of the emotional stress, insecurities, trauma bonding. Fear is the main motivator of all human beings, and you're seeing a lot of that play out. You're seeing the trauma bonding, like I said, play out. You're seeing insecurities. And so all you're looking for in cases like this is you're going to be looking for raw, hard data for things that are actually done, that you can collaborate. But when it comes to the individual interviews and testimonies, you're going to look just for consistencies between all these stories. And the challenge here also, Tony, is, one person's fear is a little bit different than another person's fear. And so as I was watching some of the testimony and some of the legal arguments going back and forth on this today, and they're saying, well, this story from this one person, like Cassie, is not completely lining up with this person. Well, because two different contexts from the same situation, and you got to just pay attention to the core situation of what Diddy was actually doing. But from a different optic from over here, different optic from over here, motivations from this one individual is going to be completely different or slightly different from this person's. The fear factor in one person is going to be playing out different than the fear factor in this other person. The recentness of the threats, the recentness of the fear of the individual. So there's so many different dynamics because we're not dealing with hard data in these situations. We're dealing with subjective impact of real life interactions with human behavior.
Yeah,
very complex, very complex. In other words, that's my long answer, horrible answer to a complex question, because everyone's going to be very different on how they respond and how they're testifying.
And Capricorn testified that she worked for Diddy on and off from 2004 to 2018, despite the claims that she was threatened, physically assaulted, forced in a car at gunpoint. That was when they went to go to Kid Cudi's house. Traumatized by workplace intimidation. Even then reconnected with the legal team in 24 to ask for a job as his chief of staff. Again, that's a lot of stuff. And, we think of trauma bonding. We think of that sometimes with like personal relationships and partners. But I mean, it can certainly happen with anyone. But it's interesting that, the bonding occurred after the job started, or maybe there was some, younger things in each of their lives that they bonded over. And that's the sad part. I wonder if this sort of behavior and this sort of treatment, felt a little familiar. And
yes, it does. And also, so another core tenet of human behavior that is guaranteed is not just fear as our motivator for human beings, but also we're always going to act in what we think is our best interests in terms of our safety, security, and prosperity being really the key here. So, and it's from the individual's point of view. So each of these individuals, they're acting what they think is their best interests. And so that's why, left the job, actually got a higher paying job, but goes back. because they're looking for their future. They're looking for prosperity. They're looking for, and they're also getting an understanding. Because remember, Diddy's reach was massive. You know, we likened him last time we chatted to a dictator of a nation state.
Yeah.
This nation state is big, and you don't know exactly where the borders are. And as time passes, his claim on the borders is expanding. I mean, this is like a never-ending size to someone that's on the outside looking in. They're like, how can I even have a job or career in this industry unless I'm part of this nation state? And so I'm going to leverage the relationship I have, even though it's toxic, because it's in my best interest if I want to be in this industry to do that. Because everyone else is, so they're rationalizing their behavior with groupthink that they're seeing other people and social proof, and they're saying, well, maybe I'm the one that's wrong, maybe I'm the one that's not getting on board with this thing, which they're being told, which are being demonstrated. Because remember, everyone else that is, and normally that happens in this thing, like in most situations, people are putting forth their 5% highlight reel of how awesome it is and hiding the 98% of crap that's going on behind the scenes. And so when people around you and around Diddy's circle is saying, you know, only presenting that 5% highlight reel, you're thinking, I'm the one that's wrong. I just got to get on board. At least just conjecture what's going on here. And then when then you're just dealing with a lot of really unhealthy people, because unhealthy people gravitate towards each other.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, the highlight reel of that 5% of the time that's really good, it's probably really good to like a level that's not like anything else, with the access that these people would have to things that they otherwise wouldn't. I mean, Diddy's the celebrity, and this is a staff member of his that we're talking about. It's not Cassie. It's not another celebrity. So to be able to be a part of that world that one would have to imagine you kind of dreamed you'd want to be someday. That's why you ended up taking a job with Diddy. That, you know, the perks, those little perks, even though they're probably pretty big, outweigh the pain and the trauma that you're going through at the time. And I'm wondering if there's probably a lot of downplaying of the trauma while you're going through it, not really realizing just how traumatic some of this stuff is until you're out of the environment.
These are a group of people, and we see it in our lives every day, that have a life out of balance. And that is, they're viewing success as materialism and things, and they're going to sacrifice healthy relationships, healthy engagement, mental health because they're coveting, because their social network has told them that success is this thing, this object, this notoriety, this title, this position, and this material wealth. Who on their deathbed said it was all worth it?
Yeah.
Not one person. Because remember, it's when you have your life out of balance, and this is why doing true crime is the simplest thing in the world, because every single case like this is circled around really, really unhealthy people that are valuing things over relationship. And that's where the life arc is. So all these people in a life, and so the life arc could have been very good and very altruistic. I want to get in the music industry. I want to do things to provide value to others. I want to inspire people through the creative things I'm doing. That's a beautiful life arc. But then when they get to that certain point and they're sold a bill of goods by the nation state of Diddy, that no. That's not the mission here. The mission here is the materialist.
Yeah.
The mission here is the title and position of being in the Diddy circle. The mission here is to get invited to the white party. What goes on at the white party? Well, you got to be inside the nation of Diddy first to get invited to that. And so you get groomed into and groomed out of the healthy outlook you had on life and valuing people over things. You know, I see this all the time in my great kids and in ourselves as well. When you pursue things above relationships, you're always going to lose. You will just lose. And we all go out with exactly what we came in with. Nothing except the memories and relationships that we had. And I know I'm getting on kind of this pontification of you know, altruistic, you know, living, but that's why I see this whole situation, this whole case through that lens, because this is a lot of unhealthy people. And now what's happening is, with the people that are testifying, it takes an immense amount of courage to go against what they've been validated inside themselves and rationalizing their own behavior for all these years, to try to break out of that. But there's a lot of baggage they're bringing with it as they're trying to break out.
I think one of the shocking. I mean, everything's been shocking in this case, but one of the many shocking things, and I'm curious to get your take on the mind behind this, is the folks who were allegedly witnessing Diddy be physically abusive to Cassie. I know there's other accusations about him with other people too. Some of the specific ones I'm talking about involves Combs kicking Cassie Ventura repeatedly while she was in a fetal position and begged security to help. Nobody stepped in. Clark was allegedly there. There was also allegations of Diddy literally punching Cassie in the stomach at a restaurant with many other celebrities that were there, other people in the music world that were brought up in around that time and that era. I won't name their names on here, but you can certainly find them. And again, nobody does anything. And the thing is, it wasn't everybody that was a security guard that he probably threatened their life or the lives of their family if they ever go and tell anything on him. These were other people, maybe not quite of his stature, because there really wasn't many that were ever that high of his stature in the music industry, but people who had a lot of clout and just stood by and watched this happen. I don't know. That's a weird psychology to it. And fame and money, I'm sure, are big players in that. But to watch like somebody just punch their significant other at dinner, and you're like, "Hey, can I get some more of the ambrosia pie?" It's like that's weird.
That's what cults do, and that's what the Nazi Party did during World War II. There's no difference.
Yeah,
there really isn't. I mean, when you are groomed into thinking this is normal, and you are being told how to rationalize it, people are objectifying people that aren't part of that inner circle. Because remember, when you're part of the inner circle, everything's okay. So you're just battling for that title and position of the inner circle, so you don't get treated like that. That's what happens. Again, it happens inside of every single cult. It happened inside the Nazi Party. People are trying to figure that out. It wasn't really all that complicated. You set people up as victims or problem solvers. And then inside, what Hitler was shown was that, this is how we're being abused by the world. And here's the reason why we're being abused. And so we're going to form a coalition around this. If you're not part of this group, you're on the outside of this group. On the outside of this group, we're just going to destroy you. And we're going to, kill anyone it stands in the way. And I mean, there's so many cases of family members turning in family members, of mothers turning in kids. I mean, in some cases, it was really pretty hard. Actually, not mothers and kids. It's actually kids turning in parents, actually, in a lot of these cases. But it's the same thing, because you're sold a bill of goods, and you get brainwashed into thinking this is normal thinking. I mean, again, I love drawing some of these other cases together, so let's move out of the darkness of World War II and the Nazis. What we look at, again, we go back to Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt. How they brainwashed their husband and the kids into thinking that this behavior of abuse is absolutely normal in life. And if you weren't part of it, you're going to be ostracized and kicked out of it. They're groomed into it, and they thought this was completely normal. About how we raise kids is by beatings, by suffering, by just think about the mental abuse that those kids went through in that case. Was that Ruby said that the two youngest kids were not behaving well enough. They did not deserve Christmas presents. And so they were forced to sit there on Christmas morning and watch everyone else open up the Christmas presents, and everyone in that house thought that was okay.
Yeah.
Or they didn't think it was okay, but they didn't know what to do about it. And that's the really key. They didn't know what to do about it. So in these people, let's bring it to the Diddy now. You see something important, you see something horrendous, but you don't know what to do about it. Who do you go to? You go to the police? Well, if I go to the police, Diddy kills people.
Yeah. Well, allegedly. But yeah.
Or ruins careers.
Yeah.
I mean, bad things happen. People disappear who go against the system. So what do I do about it? I better just shut up.
Because you want to, it's self-preservation too. And
100%. Again, fear is the greatest motivator here. And then just not knowing, because when someone's running a nation state or a cult, which is a little mini nation state, or the world of Diddy, where do you go?
Yeah. It seems like a lot of people saw firsthand what a monster he was. that
Yeah.
that just didn't say a word. It wasn't all just behind closed doors. In fact, it seemed to be pretty much out in the open. There always had been some rumblings, but he always, I mean, there's rumblings about everybody in Hollywood. And it always just kind of felt like that's where it ended. But to hear like, oh my God, like all these people were witnessing this sort of stuff from him and not doing anything. And I get that, well, what do I do? But what then makes me wonder even more is, well, who else is doing this? That this is so normal. I would think it would be an outlier if Diddy's the only one doing it. Maybe people would be more apt to speak up about it. But who else is like this over
I
there?
don't think any so an outlier would be someone that has a healthy balance. And
No,
you
that's
really
true.
think
Yeah.
you really think a healthy balanced individual is going to make it inside that inner circle? See
No,
that?
no, that's
No.
true.
Because those people are already walking away.
Yeah.
And so it's only the unhealthy that make it through the door to that level.
Mm-hmm.
The broken or the breakable is a good way to put it. I don't want to say anyone's broken, before they did this, but the breakable made it through that door, so they could be groomed into it.
I mean, with all of these things that are coming out now, and we haven't seen a lot publicly about other celebrities involved with the actual abuse. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know. But the fact that so many names are being named of just being present for these things, do you think that this has changed something in that world? So many people just dead silent on this whole case, or even like leaving the country. Do you think people are having a reckoning with this behavior, or just, well, that one got caught?
For a short time period, maybe. But at the same time, though, human beings are still human beings. We've been evolving for hundreds of thousands of years, and you're not going to undo our brokenness in a Diddy case. So it might ebb away for a short time as it's heightened and more sensitive. But as time passes and the memory of it fades, power will always corrupt. Abhorrent, unhealthy behavior will always be there. People willing to victimize others for their own gain will always be there. We're not going to wipe it out. All you can do is try to have great systems of legal justice systems in place so you can try to overcome these things when they do happen, because it will happen again. Just it won't happen anytime too soon, but the seeds are always there because people are people, and there's always going to be someone who wants to take advantage of you.
Yeah. One more take on this. The mother of Cassie Ventura, she in this case, she knew that Cassie was being abused, and to make him stop abusing, he demanded that she give him $20,000, and she paid it. It's like, it's extortion, and it's almost in reverse. You would almost be thinking it'd be the other way around, of I'll give you $20,000 not to tell anybody that I'm doing this, but it's more like you're going to give me that money. I mean, that's very sadistic in terms of a power grab, and that takes a evil type of person to do that sort of shit.
No, the form of control.
Yeah.
Do you really think he needed $20,000?
No.
No, it's a form of control.
Yeah.
So he now owns the mother. That's it. And she paid to be owned by him.
Yeah, that's what makes it like so horrific.
Yeah. So I don't know these people, but we know patterns. When people that are struggling with life, with healthy behaviors, their decision-making process on how to fix problems and problem solving is also a bit off and a bit broken. And also fear, so the mother's got fear factor involved there too. So she's doing the righteous thing that she thinks to try to save her daughter, and she doesn't know what to do because of fear, most likely. Fear of reprisal, fear of this. And if a powerful guy says, well, all you got to do is give me this money to save your daughter, you're going to consider those things because you don't think there's another option in there. Because, if I can imagine the insinuations that people in Diddy's circle could be making of, hey, well, you might as well do this because you know what? We got the cops on the payroll. If you saw that last case, see how it went nowhere? Wink, wink. Well, just because you got no recourse. So I guarantee there's a lot of that going on around too, because we've seen it. We saw a lot of those accusations. How come this wasn't more investigated thoroughly? How come this? How come this? Because there was no law but Diddy law.
Yeah.
And so That's when you understand that, and you understand him as a pure predator, it makes it all kind of fall into place. And if you fell into that circle of evil, where do you go? Because you really feel like there's again that analogy of being in the middle of a hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
You think all there is in life is a hurricane. You don't see there's a path out. Meanwhile, if you just took 2 steps in this direction here, it's calm air. But you didn't know what direction to walk in.
I'm wondering if we're going to start finding bodies. Pure conjecture, but I mean, because not necessarily. I mean, I know the whole Tupac thing, and who knows, maybe that will be something. But I'm wondering more like about people who aren't famous, just people who went against the grain of Diddy land that were employees, and they said, I'm gonna like. It had to be some in this amount of time that thought that they were going to go out and expose him. I would imagine just in sheer numbers, there'd have to be a small percentage that did that. And they got stopped because
maybe, I really think that the shields of their screening process of who to accept in were very good. And here's how they're good. If you had any semblance of moral reservation at the very first steps, and you weren't willing to focus on things over than healthy relationships and good, healthy dialogue. First of all, they self-selected out before it even got there. I mean, as I always do that empathy thing where I place myself in those shoes in different positions. I can imagine, because I mean, I've seen really unhealthy people in the organizations and things that I've done. Dude, I just don't go around crazy people.
Yeah.
So I would never. And so the healthy ones that could have done that would have been bumped off, wouldn't have been engaged necessarily. They wouldn't have made it through that first level that they'd have to be. I think it was a large nation state of Diddy.
Yeah.
But I think a very controlled nation state of Diddy where you had a lot of groupthink. And once you made it to the white party invite, I think that's it. And then again, when you're talking about the celebrities, the thing I thought about this, I wonder if there's any repeat shows of celebrities, or were they one-offs or make 1.5s?
Yeah.
Because they saw it. The healthy ones, the ones that are actually good actors, good musicians, and all these things that are legit. They show up. And they show up for a while, and then when he says, "Hey, it's time for the kids to go to bed" or something like that, and then it all kinds of takes that shift, and then either they left at that point too, or their eyes were open and like, "Oh, we're gonna walk away from this nut house." So
yeah,
I think it was just really, really isolated. It's a way, again, just all the elements of cult are there, with the exception of he's not making money the same way the cults are. He's got a different business model.
That's true. Yeah.
All the elements are there, though.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It seems so chaotic, but it had to have been very organized for it to survive as long as it did.
Chaos is an interesting thing about that too. I don't, like you said, I don't think it was chaos. I think it was nature at a certain point. I don't think it took a lot of thought. I think they just knew how to react to every situation, to every person. There was there was a method of operation. And again, they didn't go from zero to Diddy World. This was evolved over time, because again, you start out with talent, you start out with being able to do things and having success, and then as it was slowly morphing because of his own crap and his own unhealthy behavior, without a check and balance in there, it evolved into this. And over a period of time, it just became a natural state of being. Again, not putting it. Claiming anyone involved here has got psychopathy, but remember, psychopaths and pure predators don't think about how to be that. They just are that. And I think that's what evolved in here. They didn't have to think about how to run the Diddy empire. It just was being.
Yeah.
If a problem comes up, here's what we do with problems. If a problem, if we want someone on staff, here's our process for doing that. It just became a rep. When you have 20 or 30 years of reps down, you don't really think about how to do it. You're just doing it. The people know their roles because the people around him that were close, they've been there a long time. They don't think about how to do things. They just do them. Just think about all the movies that we've seen about The Godfather and things like this. Are people given specific instructions, or are you given a look, a nod, and you know what to do?
Yeah.
Someone presents you with information and data, looks at you, looks at his buddy, goes like this, and it's done. See what I mean?
Yeah. It's just
same thing.
It's a language of its own, really, in a lot of ways.
It is. Just responding to the unhealthy environment around them to solve the problems that they pop up.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.